Hello and welcome, independent researchers, skeptics, and all of humankind, shadow citizens. Your hosts, Rachael L. Mcintosh and Rob O'Sell.
All right. We made it. We're all here tonight. Excellent. All right. This is Rachael Mcintosh, Rachael L. Mcintosh. You have to use that L if you're going to do a Google search on me because some soccer player shows up with Rachael Mcintosh. I'm Rachael L. Mcintosh. I'm your host of Shadow Citizen. And tonight we have a very interesting show, and it's important to everybody to listen to this. It's about geoengineering. And right now there is a bill that's being looked at in a committee in a very small state that I'm from. The state is Rhode Island, and it's the only bill about geoengineering in the United States. And I think this is I'm going to bring somebody through that's putting this bill forward. His name is Justin Price. He's a representative from Exeter in Rhode Island. And we also have Jolie Diane. She's an environmental activist, and she's very much into this. She actually edited Justin's bill. Let me see. Who do we have here first? Who's first?
Yeah, hi, Rachael.
Hi. Oh, good. You're here. Wonderful. Excellent. So Jolie's here. Justin's not here yet. Justin Price, the representative. Now, Jolie, since you're here, and this is great that you are here, why don't we start off talking about what geoengineering is and how, first off, what is it and why should people even be concerned about it?
Well, thanks, Rachel. Geoengineering is the artificial modification of Earth's weather and climate systems. And these kinds of programs and activities have actually been occurring since before the 1950s. But now what we have is kind of a situation where there's a federal and international geoengineering, and this ties into global governance. And so it's very fitting that Rhode Island should be the first state to reject the geoengineering agenda and put forth this bill, which is a counter mechanism to this planned pollution. And everyone should know about it because we care about the environment.
Now,
we care about our communities.
Right.
And it impacts everybody. No one can be free if you are breathing geoengineering substances, which are distributed, and you're being electromagneted. You're hit with EMF from the microwave radiation that's employed with these programs as well.
Okay, wait, stop. So what we're talking about is geoengineering. It's people that are trying to affect the weather. Now, people have cloud seeded for a long time. They've been seeding clouds, and that makes rain. I understand that. What's different about geoengineering than cloud seeding? Or is cloud seeding part of geoengineering?
Yes, cloud seeding is part of weather modification. And again, just because they've always done it doesn't make it okay. What it is
right.
is they add chemicals to the atmosphere. And we know this is true because we have lab tests that contain the geoengineering footprint, which is aluminum, barium, strontium, and sulfur. And we actually have a test from Providence and from Coventry that both indicate the geoengineering footprint.
Okay. Now, I'm from Rhode Island, and my people listening to this show might know this too. Rhode Island is the smallest state in the United States. We're teeny tiny, and we're one of the first original 13 colonies. We're also the state that refused to sign the Constitution. And when we did that, Yeah, Rhode Island ended up getting starved out by the other states around it until they finally broke down and signed the Constitution. So if you go ever to look at the real Constitution and look, Rhode Island didn't sign that. And we're putting up a fight about this geoengineering bill. I mean, this geoengineering stuff that's going on. And I'm really, really surprised, quite frankly, that Representative Justin Price is doing this. I know him we were both running to be delegates for Ron Paul. He was on the ballot with me twice. And, so that's how I know him. And he's a good guy. I was really surprised that he came forth with this bill. And I wish we could get him on the phone right now, but he'll come on shortly, I'm sure. But in any event, so do people sometimes call this chemtrails?
Yeah, I mean, initially when people look up at the sky, that's the first thing that people think because it's like, oh, what is that?
Yeah.
But, once you learn about these programs, and the fact that they are financed, almost through 2028 now, and what it's called is weather research. And the bill actually that was already signed was Weather Research and Forecasting Innovation Act of 2017 that was signed by Mr. Trump in April. Mm-hmm. And so when we're talking about these programs, the way that we have to take them down, because the terminology is important. We've been kind of going around in circles. The Air Force put together the idea that chemtrails were a hoax, and they gave this information to all of our representatives. And so when you call in and you refer to these programs with that term, they're instructed to just go, okay, bye. They won't even listen because everybody goes by the book. It's their instructions. But when you talk about the bill, for example, HR 353, which finances atmospheric chemistry and Department of Defense weather activities, you can do the research and see that, yes, cloud seeding is central. And, in fact, a very important document for people to look at is at the Zero Geoengineering site, and it is called 5Z 2005 letter. Mm-hmm. The Office of Science and Technology. And basically in that letter, it's from the Bush administration, and they end up not passing legislation for similar legislation that's going through now because of the liability issues that the government would have.
So they didn't do it just because there was some sort of liability. They thought they were going to get sued.
Right. And so they just rebranded. So now they're not calling it weather modification as they have since the 50s and 40s and stuff. Now they're calling it weather research. And Harvard is doing weather experiments. NASA is doing weather experiments. And so as long as they call it research, then they have been able to avoid the hazardous substance list of the EPA, which includes all of those contaminants, aluminum, barium, strontium, and sulfur. And these are by no means the only contaminants contained in these, emissions. But the important thing is that what Representative Price has done, which was, and going back to what you were saying, the point you're making about Rhode Island, which is really central to this, it's states' rights. It's 10th Amendment all the way. There is no federal law that can come and violate our state laws. And so we need to just show up regarding, if we care about the environment, this is our issue, because geoengineering, they're talking about adding chemical pollution. And that's not because I say so. Please go research the Harvard documents. They don't hide it. Carnegie Council is sponsoring conferences all over the world. So there's conferences in China about geoengineering global governance. Russia has weather modification going. So again, Rhode Island is standing up for biology on the planet, because biology is not meant to have so much pollution. It's not good for the environment. It's not good for the climate. People talk about greenhouse emissions, but let's talk about pollution emissions. That's what's causing the climate damage, not greenhouse gases. No, come on, everybody. Your breath is not a pollutant. It's not your fault. They're dumping pollution into the atmosphere and doing different experiments. And in fact, June 11th, NASA did an experiment to release chemicals aluminum, barium, and strontium. So there you go. They're not hiding it. And so now, Representative Price has this legislation that we're trying to mirror in other states. Because again, 10th Amendment, we have to have liberty. And liberty is impossible if we are getting man-made weather.
That's right. Well, I just want to tell people that are not from Rhode Island, all of May, it rained every single day. And then when we got into June, it was literally 50 degrees. And people can say, oh, the weather in New England is crazy. But it's very ironic that that bill got passed in April, you said, that President Trump signed. And all of a sudden, all this stuff's happening. I'm not saying that they did this, but I'm just saying it's very interesting coincidence. And maybe they did do it just because they could for research. Yeah. And maybe not even in Rhode Island. Maybe it was happening somewhere else, and it was one of those butterfly wing things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing is, they're manipulating the weather. They're manipulating the climate. They have this idea that's built on a false premise of that carbon is a problem, or that the sun is the problem, or that the nature of photosynthesis and physics on the planet is a problem. What they're doing is mitigating false problems. And so in doing so, they're making a ton of money because the weather industry is at the heart of H.R. 353 and S-141, which is just the Senate bill, and that's called Space Weather Research and Forecasting Act.
Okay, so the H-353, that's the one that Trump
that's the House of Representatives, and that's the one that Trump signed, yes.
Yes, okay,
now,
good.
The other one, that's not so great because what that's saying is it's legalizing geoengineering. They're calling it weather research, but now they have a blank check pretty much. They got it financed on that bill through like 2020. Then you go to S-141. This is already passed the Senate. It's in the House. So people, if you want to, you can call 1-866-220-0044 and call your senators and congresspeople and say no space weather, no on S-141. There's a million other things we could be spending money on for the social good and public good. So, we have to see, the thing is we have to show up at policy making where it counts, because that's where the laws are being implemented or not. Unfortunately, it's only industry that showed up for weather modification. Everyone else is like, it's not really happening.
No, it's true because people don't realize, you don't realize it's going on. Yeah. Because we spend a lot of time indoors these days. We're looking at a computer all the time. And if it's raining outside or if it's crummy outside or the sky's full of, yucky clouds, you kind of just go, what am I to do about it? It's too big of a thing. Even if you are worried about it, it's too big of a thing. And that's why, like I said, I'm very, very proud of Justin Price, Representative Justin Price from Exeter, Rhode Island. And he's with us on the line now. And I want to introduce everybody to him. Justin, can you hear me?
Justin? I can, Rachel.
Oh, great. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad. So can you tell us, everybody here on the line and us in the world, tell us about your bill that you're putting forth.
Well, the Geoengineering Act of 17, that's to say, it's kind of like a licensing bill, it's in somewhat of an awareness bill, so that it brings this to light and gets it heard in committee, and a lot of people around the planet have been contacting me about this, so it's definitely getting some traction worldwide, nationwide.
Okay, I just want to interrupt. That's wonderful that people are contacting you. This is very cool. But you just said it's a licensing bill, so it's not really an anti-geoengineering bill. That people are still going to geoengineer, but it's a licensing bill?
Well, that's how we had to address it through the state legislation. We had to go through the licensing process so that everything could be reviewed, and if anybody violates the licensing process, they'll be fine. So,
because Trump did sign that H353, right? So because everything's for research is legal, so now Rhode Island can say, hey, look, if you're going to do it, you have to get a license to do it, and you have to apply for it. Is that what you're saying?
Correct, and you have to go through all the proper channels. You have to say exactly what you're doing and exactly what what chemicals or what process you're going to propose, and so everything will be on the table. But like I said earlier, it really is bringing awareness to geoengineering, and getting people involved with it. I think that's one of the good things about the bill.
Okay, so the bill in Rhode Island, just so people know, it's called Rhode Island H6011. And that you can find online, and you could look at it and read it. And Jolie, our other guest who's with us right now, she's been talking for a little bit. She helped edit that, from what I understand. Now, Jolie, you edited that, and how much does it cost to apply for this license in Rhode Island?
Yeah, thanks. Hi, Red Price. This is a process that you have to go through, and there's about 10 agencies. So if someone wanted to geoengineer, the first thing they have to do is fill out an application and give an EIS statement, which is an environmental impact statement, to each of these agencies. So it's not just like they're going to get to go, woo, and go geoengineer. They're going to have to go through this process, and it's going to be like a roadblock system. So, it's very important. I mean, people around the world have a voice and an articulation of what the problem is. And like Rep Price was saying, it's bringing a lot of awareness and legitimacy to this, so people can start really taking a closer look and seeing that it's a real deal and a major problem.
Okay, well, let's back up. What are the major problems that could happen? Because for people that are just not aware of this, they'll be like, what could happen? What could possibly happen if we don't stop this? What if it's supposed to be good for the environment? Maybe they're going to try to help us. Maybe if people say that, they won't even listen twice. But what could happen if we don't do this bill?
Well, then it just says that we're okay with megatons of pollution being dumped on us, and we have it in our lab tests. We can't have liberty. It's not really just about the aerosol chemicals. It's about the electromagnetism employed by geoengineering and G5. It's like we can't have liberty. We can't have liberty. It's impossible to do if we are going to be manipulated with frequencies and polluted on as, just that's man-made weather. This is it. Modified weather, everyone.
Okay, so Jolie, you're talking about some sort of waves that they put through the air to make clouds, or it's obviously not cloud seeding. They're doing something else to make the weather do something. What's that other thing they're doing? And you said it's like radioactive. It's like what is that? Can you explain it better?
It's emissions. They use radar, microwave technology. And so the microwaves act in collaboration with the metals. All
right. So now I get it. All right.
So the atmosphere is conductive, and then so are we. And so this is the thing. This is the line that's crossed. We don't have liberty if we are forced into geoengineering, and that's why Rhode Island is so important, because it's saying states' rights. This is the 10th Amendment here. We can't just come in our state and do experimentation without asking, polluting. I don't think so.
So, all right, have they tested this technology at all? Like, could they say, look, we tested it and it's totally safe? Did they ever say that?
No, they have never done any human health studies at all. This is a military operation.
So they're making us, everybody in every state in the United States, we're basically going to be an experiment. And that's why I keep saying weather research in these bills, like the one that Trump just signed. It's called weather research. And the humans that are walking around, they have no recourse because President Trump just signed this bill that said humans in America can be lab rats. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's these programs have been going on for decades, so Mr. Trump didn't invent it. He
didn't invent it. He just said it was okay, right?
Well, now it's implemented in the system, but not all the way, because again, we still have H6011 to assert our citizenship in each state and counter this. And we can get on the phone tomorrow and every single day and contact our representatives and say no on S141, space weather, because this is the funding. I mean, we have to show up where they're funding it, and that's where they're funding it. I'm trying to, just share this with people. The S141, Space Weather Research and Forecasting Act, is a bill pending. It's already passed in the Senate, and now it's in the House Intelligence Committee. So we have an opportunity to, again, weigh in there.
Yeah, excuse me. It's in the House Intelligence Committee. Why is it there?
Now it is. Well, these are programs, the military programs. This is where it leads, is to the military. These are military programs, and everyone's wondering, well, why is this happening? Well, this is space weather. There's a lot of research that people can do. You can check out weathermodificationhistory.com. You can go to zerogeoengineering.com and just start doing the research and looking at the programs. I mean, it's not anything that anyone can get explained to them. I don't think it's like you can go take courses in university about geoengineering and climate engineering. So yeah, what we're facing is a public awareness of understanding that this is pollution.
Okay, so what you just told me before, so this has been going on for a very long time. In fact, didn't one of the Chafees, Chafee was a congressman from Rhode Island, and he actually did some statements back in the day about geoengineering, and he was very concerned about it. If people want to Google that, I know that that's something that they could look at. The other interesting thing about this, too, is that Kurt Vonnegut's brother, he used to do geoengineering, too, and that's how Kurt Vonnegut kind of got this whole idea about what government is anyway. So that's just an interesting aside. I want to bring Justin Price back on the line. Justin, Jolie just explained that bill in Rhode Island, H6001, that bill is more almost like a stumbling block for people to try to do geoengineering in Rhode Island. Is that what you're trying to say too, or no?
Right. It's going to make it so they have to go through all the agencies and explain what they're doing and get the environmental impacts in the study, and it's just going to, and it'll make it so it's not, so that it's out in the public and in the public forum, so that everybody knows what they're going to do.
Okay. When are these hearings?
What's that?
When are the hearings? Because I know I live here and I'd love to attend them. When are they?
The hearings for the bill?
Yeah.
Well, it was already heard once. It's held for further study, and I've been talking with the chairman about further actions that we're going to take on it.
And what do you mean that? Meaning like how it's edited, or what does that mean?
Well, it's going to come up for another hearing.
And when is that? When is that?
It has not been scheduled for another hearing.
Oh, okay. How would I find out when the hearing is?
If you go on the Rhode Island State House website, the Representative House website, and you go to the legislation, there's a toolbar on the top, and you hit the legislation button, and then you hit the next button down that says bills and text, and then where it says bill number down below, you type in just 6011. Don't type the 8 because it won't. Just type 6011, and it'll come up with the bill and the hearing information.
Okay. I'm going to do that now. So, believe me, I'll be there. I'll be at the next hearing of that thing.
Oh yeah.
Now,
If there's
go
no
ahead.
hearing, I'll certainly will. let you put it out there, and I'll be telling everybody when there's another hearing. So.
Yeah, definitely give us. I'm going to put all these links that everybody, Jolie just said, what you just said, everything's going to be linked on YouTube. These broadcasts I do are archived at YouTube. They're archived at Vimeo. They're archived over at SoundCloud. They're now archived at BitChute. I'm going to put the links to all the things that we're talking about if people want to share this information with a friend. I want to go back to Jolie. I'm going to put you on mute. So Jolie, I'm back with you now. And I want to talk about, you brought up a couple things about these beams that they're putting into the particles that they're putting into the air, and they're microwaves or other things, because we really don't know. In fact, in the bill that President Trump signed, H353, it literally says, and other purposes in the title of the bill. It means like weather research, blah, 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 and other purposes. So that wave that they're going to be blasting through this conductive air, through these particles, does that have to do with communication? Like, you know how everything's got these, like I'm sitting in my house, there's a thing on inside of my house that says G5 or 5G on it. Is that what we're talking about? That sort of thing?
That's the overlapping technology that we are talking about. Exactly. And in the bill HR 353, they actually do talk about this advanced radar. And we are talking about the communication systems because we have Verizon and other companies like this. And so it does say specifically in the bill, advanced radar networking technologies, and other ground-based technologies, including those emphasizing rapid, fine-scale sensing of the boundary layer and lower troposphere, and the use of innovative dual polarization phased array technologies. And so, yes, this is very sophisticated technology, and it employs the use of microwave radiation, like you're saying, the 5G. And we know that this is harmful. Microwave radiation is a class 1 human health carcinogen, like smoking. So it's something that we want to cut down on, and not saying that we want to get rid of all our technology, but we can use fiber optics, and we can, be responsible with our phone use, hold it away from ourselves and not give it to children, and just be careful. Yeah. But there's a lot of things that we have to catch up on in society, I think, with the science and understanding that these microwaves might be invisible, but we can read them with special equipment like electrosmog meters. So we have to be aware of it. It's something, if we want to be healthy, we have to do things like cut down the pollution in the environment via geoengineering and G5. These are both just modern invasive technologies. And again, Representative Price's bill has given a context to being able to counter this steamrolling, really, of these programs. They started before a lot of people were even born. So, yeah, it's an opportunity.
Okay.
So
it is an opportunity. So, all right, this G5, I know that they've got the Verizon boxes and stuff. And have they tested that on humans? I know that I've been, since I knew I was going to be doing you, I knew that they had, was Boston and Seattle were set up for this now?
Yeah, you're one of the test states. Ask Rep. Price about it, because Rhode Island's one of the test states, and yeah, you're getting it tested on you. Basically, it's not safe.
Right now we are.
We're all it's dialed in everywhere. Yeah, we are facing the Mobile Now Act. That's S19, and this is the deployment of this technology. And again, this is overlapping with the geoengineering because they are overlapping technologies. And so, yes, they're both emissions, though. This is the thing. They're both emissions, the emissions from the G5 and the emissions from the geoengineering, and we can measure both. So, yeah, let's just try and get on offense here.
Now, didn't I see recently, I think I saw this, somebody was standing up, very important. I think it was the day they announced the Harvard experiment. It was literally, I think, the day or the day after. It was the head of the CIA was standing up talking to somebody about communications are going to be so much quicker now and so much better now. And then somebody else I saw talking about the same technology, and somebody asked, has this been tested on humans? He goes, we're not going to wait till it gets tested.
Right.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to try to pull up the link to those two things when I post this on YouTube so people can see what I'm talking about. These people are they are singularly focused to get this out because, it's all about communications. And of course, that's, I think, why the DOD is involved. It's the same technology that speed traders on Wall Street use. They set up those big, like literally laser beams or radio waves or microwaves so they could get the quickest information about what the trades on Wall Street are doing. And I remember when they first put those up, people were very concerned about being like in the straight line of fire of that thing. And people did do tests on that for themselves, for their own personal knowledge. And it did seem like it was a kind of a carcinogenic thing. So it would be, I think, prudent for a state to make a big fuss about allowing this to happen. I know this state, Rhode Island, our governor is very, very excited about this because we're going to be moving into, the new century when we're going to have people moving into Rhode Island because we're going to be so far advanced. But we don't know how this is going to affect us. Is it going to affect our children? Is it going to affect our weather? Is it going to affect our food, our water? What is it going to do? And these are things I think anybody should be kind of concerned about. It doesn't mean, you're anti-science, it just means you just want to know before, if you're going to walk into a lion's den, maybe you should be got better equipment with you. I don't know, but, so that's my thought. I'm going to bring, Justin back on. Justin, are you still here? Justin?
Yes.
Okay, good. Listen, Justin, now listen to me. I have a question for you. Now, when you came up with this idea of, I'm going to present this bill, did you go looking for these people to write this bill for you, or did they come to you with this bill?
Well, originally, Representative Karen Macbeth and I presented it last session, and she was the prime sponsor on it. And then we started getting some input from, people around the country. And then there were some people that contacted me, like Jolie and Rosalind Peterson, and Susan down in Florida. And everybody, pitched in, and, they were really knowledgeable about all the technology and stuff. So that's how the bill got created.
Okay, so the bill was originally written by, you mentioned Peterson. That's Rosalind Peterson?
Rosalind, yeah. Now,
okay, she was from the USDA, right? She was agriculture. So she's concerned about all this due to agriculture stuff. And then the other person, Susan Clark, she's from Harvard. Now that's the same place that's doing this giant geoengineering experiment. Was she involved with that big experiment, or is she a different type of scientist?
No, she's really concerned about doing any kind of experimentation like that and the ramifications of it. What's that, David Keith, that's really promoting the geoengineering. He's also at Harvard, but we're trying to, if anybody's going to do any experimentation, it's got to be safe and safe for humans. And obviously it's not. So this is kind of a roadblock bill in a way.
Right. Right. Now, all right. So you said obviously it's not. How is it obvious? Just for argument's sake, how is it obvious that it's not safe? Like if somebody, say I'm at the bar or something, is like, Gina, you're crazy, that chemtrail person. I'm like, no, but it's not safe. How would I fight that back? Maybe, Jolie, if you want to jump in, you can jump in. Both of you are unmuted. How would you say that this is not safe? How would you make that argument?
Well, when you listen to these scientists talk about the amount of sulfur and other chemicals they want to put into the atmosphere, I mean, I forget the amount that they are proposing. This Dr. Keith and his proposal. It's just an enormous amount of chemicals and sulfur to introduce into the atmosphere, and that right there will raise an eyebrow. I don't really want to quote how much he was saying because it's such a large thing. I don't want to sound over the top.
You don't want to put your foot in your own mouth, right? I understand. Now, I know people make a big deal out of volcanoes because it is true. Volcanoes send up a ton of stuff. They just send up a ton of stuff. And I think the Harvard experiment, from what I've looked at, and Jolie could correct me if I'm wrong, what they want to do is basically make a cloud cover similar to a volcano's eruption. And I don't know what they hope to do with that other than to just create a big mess. I'm not sure what their plan is there. Jolie, what do you have to say about that? What is the difference between what they're doing and a volcano?
Well, a volcano is from Mother Earth, and it's a natural occurrence. What they're talking about is adding significant quantities of known hazardous substances, and they are all included on the 2012 hazardous substance list of the EPA. Secondly, in relation to sulfur dioxide emissions, everyone should review the regulations that were put in place in 2010. Originally, California took sulfur dioxide out of diesel fuel because it causes asthma in children and acid rain. So following that suit, the rest of the country, all the other states, also took sulfur dioxide out of diesel fuel for the same reason. Now, Professor Keith and his comrades who are promoting the idea of covering the earth with massive sulfur pollution without asking anyone's permission. And they're just doing that. What do you I mean, we don't have to ask what it's going to do. It's harmful. We already know. And see, they've gotten away because they've been able to operate in the context internationally. They haven't been held accountable to the state's regulations. And so they've sidestepped those. So this is why our bill is so relevant and so important, because it gives people the voice to step up and articulate what our demands are, which is, hey, we're just talking about air quality. We want to cut down on pollution emissions. That includes electromagnetism for 5G type technology, and it also includes any kind of particulate, which we, Rosalind and Susan and Rep. Price, put in this bill very clearly what the definitions are. And, so we at least have a place to show up and counter this, real pollution generating industry. I can't think of another way to term it. I mean, it's just really, seriously, it's just adding a lot of pollution. So again, people who care about the environment, geoengineering is your issue, and so is 5G.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now, what's interesting to me is that as the economy here in the United States continues to kind of falter, amazingly, as the businesses close, it seems that more and more effort is being put into hospital stuff. And I've seen new cancer research centers popping up all around the place, especially around universities. And it's going to sound kind of creepy and everything, but I believe Catherine Austin Fitz, when I talked to her, she said something very similar. They're going to basically process people in a way that they're going to keep you kind of sick, and cancer is a great way to do that, because all of a sudden you're in a system where you're sick, you're dependent on all different funding to funnel through you. You become like a vector for this funding, and then it just funnels through you and your sickness. That money goes to other organizations and other places. So you're moving money around. And I personally feel that this 5G, that's what's called, or G5, that, I think that is going to lead into more cancer, I would imagine. I mean, it's a radio, it's a microwave. That
Absolutely.
To me seems obvious.
Absolutely. Wireless is, there's human studies from 1927 to now, thousands of human studies, and they've proven that wireless radiation is hazardous. So, I mean, we can, the solution is wired technology. I mean, we already have the solution, so it's not, it's just we do have to show up and insist that the technology complies with safety regulations. That's all.
Is this already in kids' schools? Or no, not yet. Not yet in Rhode Island, or no? Well,
there are a lot of, I don't know about everywhere, but they're trying to get wireless out of schools because it is harmful, especially, for the children's reproductive. It's also bad for the neurological abilities. So we know this. It's like, why is it there? I mean, again, we have, just as parents and concerned, people that care in the community, this is great that we're having this conversation more and more, and just forcing technology to catch up or be, safe. I mean, it's kind of like the Ralph Nader, it's like there was a lot of things that, you didn't have seatbelts in the car, they didn't think about that, and then it just makes perfect sense now, it's just safety. Well, this is the same thing where it's just air pollution, safety, and we have to just demand way better.
Yeah, it comes down to people it's the knowledge of this stuff, because back in the day, nobody thought to put on seatbelts. They just hop in the truck and just start plowing over the field. It's no big deal, right? And of course, at that point, we probably only traveled at 45 miles an hour on the highway back in the way, when my parents had their car when they were very first driving around. But now we drive at 70 miles an hour, and it's worth it to put that seatbelt on. And we got the airbags. We got all these different things to protect us. And I think we have to think about all this technology for the communications. Of course, everybody wants a good cell phone. They want all this stuff. That's why the company is providing all this stuff. But the thing is, they don't know the dangers. And I think this is really, like both of you been saying, it's really about talking about what the dangers could be. And it's not to sound like I'm like this crazy person that's just afraid of stuff. I love technology. I'm a big fan of going off planet. I'm crazy about SpaceX, just stuff like that. But I feel I don't want to be a victim. And I think that anybody that is concerned about their own health, don't even worry about, worry about the environment, but worry about your own health. Worry about the fact that you might end up with something like MS or cancer or, these dementia, with all this aluminum that they're throwing at us out of these, or these clouds or whatever they're throwing. We have, like you said, they have the soil samples to show that this stuff we're being dusted with it. Now, I had another guest on. He was from Suspicious Observers, which is a space weather news. He does a daily broadcast. He said that the stuff that they're spraying in the sky that people call chemtrails, he said those will not affect the planet for years to come. They're spraying that stuff at such altitudes that they know that it's going to do something. They know that it's deadly. And he says I don't know who they got to fly these planes and how they wake up in the morning and look at their kids to say I'm going to do this. But the big geoengineering stuff, they're doing it very high altitude, and he said it's going to take a couple years for it to come down. He said it could be within 2 years. Doesn't mean it's not touching us, but I just wanted to know. Yeah. So the fact that it's in their soil already tells me that, like you said, they've been doing this for a long time. Yeah, we've actually been testing the rainwater, and there should be absolutely zero metals in there, very, very minimal. And, it's sad because we've been getting the tests back from different parts of the country. And, yeah, in some places it's pretty bad. There's no justification for it.
And this is the thing, it's just gotten kind of pushed under the rug. It's been happening for decades, and now we have an opportunity to show up. You know, because again, when you have this discussion about what it is in the air, we're missing it. We're so late in the game. They already have S141 financing these space weather programs through 2028. So why are we still even having a conversation about, you know, if what goes up comes down? I mean, that's basic. We know that whatever goes up is going to come down, and we can prevent. Think of how great we're going to feel when we stop this pollution. Rhode Island first. They stop the pollution. Think of how great we're going to feel when we don't have the pollution and the electromagnetism pollution. I mean, you know, people started getting depressed when they started trying to block the sun 30, 40 years ago, you know, and then the pharmaceutical industry blossomed. Why? Because we need the sun. We need the vitamin D. We can't get enough from a pill. So again, like, we're going to feel so much better. All we have to do is take care of this pollution for the kids, for our communities, you know, for this place we love, you know, and that's the real problem. If you're into the climate, again, this is your issue, you know. It's been framed weather research, but it's geoengineering. And Representative Price's bill in Rhode Island, your bill in Rhode Island, this thing is really, you know, in the right place at the right time if we can capitalize on this.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, so back to this Rhode Island bill. Rhode Island, as I mentioned earlier, is the smallest little state. Honest to God, there's counties in other states that are larger than our one state. And I was in Nevada, and somebody was telling me about their county. I said, "That's Rhode Island." They said, "Yeah, that's smaller than my county." I started laughing. We're very, very small. We have Connecticut, we have Massachusetts right next to us. What's to stop somebody else, like some geoengineering company, to say, "Oh, screw Rhode Island. I'll just go over to Massachusetts, take off my plane from literally 15 miles away in the next state and take off and just start doing it," and that stuff not coming and hitting me in Rhode Island.
Yeah, well, they could do that, but what about if Massachusetts and Connecticut and Vermont and New Hampshire goes, "Hey, wow, Rhode Island, they just passed this this geoengineering act. Maybe there's something to it." You know, it could work the other way as well. And I spoke with a delegate yesterday in Maryland, and she was telling me how, yeah, if you have a strong bill in one state, it could pass in all of them. And that is the example of the sulfur bill that we were talking about earlier. The sulfur is already a known contaminant, and that they're employing with geoengineering. And in 2010, when California passed the act, the ban on sulfur in diesel fuel, they all did. And so that's the same sort of format, because we're talking about a health and safety bill here. This is no brainer. You know, so again, Massachusetts and the people in Vermont and Connecticut could get really excited and go, "Oh, thank God." They could be like, "I'm going to move to Rhode Island." Or they could get their representatives.
That would be wonderful. Now, here's the thing. What you just said sounds like an not an economic incentive, but it could be an economic incentive to have people move to our state. Here's where I find this difficult, is because obviously if the space weather bill is going to Intelligence Committee for the Department of Defense to approve this thing, there's obviously a lot of money tied up in it. And as we know, our governor is all about this. She thinks this is wonderful. She thinks it's going to make our state very economically strong because we're going to have this G5 technology. And I remember I was a delegate for Ron Paul, an alternate delegate, and I remember that Verizon was giving away free bags of stuff as he came in. They just were like, "Yay, delegates, yay, Verizon loves you." So obviously Verizon has they have a lot invested in this. And you know, and I know, and maybe Rep. Price knows. In fact, let's go to him and talk about this. Justin Price, Representative Price, have you ever been approached? Do you know of anybody that's ever been pressured by corporations to not pass a bill, or other way around? Have they been pressured by corporations to pass a bill? What do you think?
Pass a bill about 5G.
No, just in general. I mean, yeah. If it's about 5G, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I looked at the committee hearing, the people that gave testimony, and it was all, it was all the big companies, Verizon, AT&T, and all those companies that gave testimony for the.
Right, and there was
they don't call it 5G, but it's going to put little remote cell, I guess, transmitter like mini towers. I think they're speculating like every quarter of a mile on public right-of-ways. And that's
so
you're talking.
So you mean it's got a telephone pole or something?
Any public right-of-way and public utility poles, public buildings.
Right. And, okay. So you were looking at that bill, and everybody from all those companies were there to like say, "Yay, this is the best thing ever." And was anybody standing up in opposition to it? Did you notice?
I wasn't at the committee hearing, but I didn't see anybody that gave written testimony. I didn't see anybody on the list that was against it. I think they're just sliding in under the radar, and even these reps don't even really know exactly what it was. But I'm not saying anything about the ones on the committee. I'm sure they learned about it, but that if you listen to the head of the FCC, I think is who you were talking about, that gave that speech about how great 5G is going to be.
Right. Yeah, that's who it was. That's exactly who it was. Yeah.
Yep. And he explains how it's going to be for driverless cars, and I believe what he said is if it can be tracked, it will be tracked.
Yeah. All right. So there's a lot of technology that's already in development and ready to be launched the minute this 5G stuff hits for us in Rhode Island. Yeah, we don't have driverless cars here yet. No, but we will, I bet, the minute it happens. So Jolie, back to you. So there's a lot of money pushing, like literally they've invested tons of money into producing products that will work with this 5G stuff, like smart refrigerators, literally smart microwaves in your house, smart ovens, smart, televisions, the stuff that they've really invested and they've already started to produce. This is going to be a big, big fight.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And especially the fact that S141 is in the House Intelligence Committee with the DOD. Oh, that's going to be huge amounts of money. Now, here's when I said, what is the bad thing that could happen if it passes? What is the argument that you can imagine that the bad thing that would happen if it didn't pass, especially with the DOD? Are they trying to say that this would help communicate? I would imagine they're saying it's going to help communications with our warfare state so that they can stay ahead of the curve globally, or is this a global project?
Yeah, that's the crux of the issue. I think geoengineering is the mechanism for global governance, getting to bypass and overstep against state regulations and laws that exist already by just saying, oh, it's an international thing. Verizon and the deployment of the 5G technology, this is something that, again, like we can't have liberty if there's going to be blankets of this kind of microwave radiation going. And that's why showing up now, I'm going to be on the Hill doing some visiting of some of these offices, and people can call in. But now we're the fourth branch of government. We have to assert the full extent of our citizenship and get involved in this discussion because, again, S141 is something that we can still call in about on the national level and weigh in. Because as Rep. Price said, no one showed up to counter the 5G, and that's just, I wish I could be in more places, but just the 5G, once I learned about that, that's just as staggering as the geoengineering, if not more so. And again, it's just like roadblocking this invasive technology and giving it the label that it needs, which is pollution, emissions, and then slapping it with a big fine. And we can measure it Again, it's like, it's a fight I'm willing to take on. I mean, not everybody wants to do it, but when I wake up in the morning, this is what I want to do, because I'm determined that everyone should have, to be able to have clean air and clean water. I mean, and pursue life, liberty, and happiness. I mean, we can't do that if we're going to have invasive technology that sidesteps us and goes to international, global governance. And that's why, we have to step up with this kind of legislation, because it's 10th Amendment.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us today. I do appreciate this, and I do want people to know that I'm going to put the links to your websites and to these different things we've mentioned. This was an excellent show. Thank you both very, very much for your time.